In this lecture, we'll be taking a look at triggers. A trigger is a special type of stored procedure that is automatically executed in response to a specific database event such as insert, update, or delete operation on a table. Triggers are used to enforce data integrity rules, perform data validation, and automate certain tasks. There are two types of triggers in SQL Server. They are the after trigger and the instead of triggers. The SQL Server after triggers run on a table after an insert, update, or delete. It means that before the stored procedure starts running, all the operations should be executed. And the statement must also succeed in the constraint check. It's important to note that in SQL servers, after triggers are not supported on views, so use them on tables only. The after triggers can be further divided into after insert. This will fire after the completion of an insert data operation on a table. Now, a good example of this would be, for example, you insert a record in the person table, and after the insert you send an email, right? So that would be a good example where you could use an after insert trigger. Now for the after update trigger, this fires after an update operation is complete. So it's after an update exactly like what it said. So for example, if a user updates the salary table, you may want to log that update after the update is complete in an audit table. The third one is the after delete, and as the name suggests, it fires after the delete statement is complete. Now the other types of triggers are the instead of triggers. So instead of insert, I'm going to do something else, right? So you can use this to do checks before you insert data, right? So if the check is failed, then the insert won't be completed. Then the second one is the instead of update. It will fire before updating records in a table. Once the execution is complete, it will then start updating records in the target table. If it fails, the update won't be done. And the last one is the instead of delete. So as the name suggests again, instead of deleting, it execute first and then it do the delete after. If the checks in the procedure that you execute fails, then the records won't be removed from the table. Another type of trigger that you have is the data definition language triggers, right? These triggers are fired in response to DDL events, including create, drop, alter, etc., right? We can use them to prevent schema changes and record the events that occurred in the database schema. An example of this trigger could be a situation where it gives you a warning before you drop a table. So this is protecting you from accidentally dropping a table. You also have logon triggers, which are important for auditing user access to the database, right? So as the name suggests, the SQL Server logon triggers will fire whenever a user tries to log on or establish a connection to the server. So this is what the after trigger looks like in SQL Server. So when you compare it with the instead of trigger, you will see that the keyword changed from after insert to instead of insert, right? It's important to note that within the trigger logic, you can access the inserted and the deleted tables which hold the data being inserted, updated, or deleted. You can use these tables to perform operations based on the changes made to the data. So for this demo, I'll be using my demo database. I'll be creating two tables, orders table and order history table. So I'll be creating a trigger that automatically inserts record into the order history table whenever an order is inserted, updated, or deleted in the orders table. Trigger order history, which will take care of all of that. So inside the trigger, we check if the inserted table exists to determine if it's an insert or update action. If the deleted table also exists, it means that it's an update action. So in the case of an insert or update, we will insert the record in the order history table with the corresponding action, insert or update, and capture the relevant information from the inserted or deleted tables. So if the inserted table does not exist, that means it's a delete action, right? So in this case, we're still logging the deleted information into the order history table. So let's create this trigger. So my bad, I need to create these tables first. They do not exist. So let's execute the trigger again. So what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to insert a record in the orders table. So let's execute. One row was affected. So let's check the order history table. Let's select top 1000 and we can see that the record was logged. So the order ID is 1, action, insert, date the action was done, customer name, the order date and the total amount. Now to make this information more useful, you could also add a column that captures the user information who executed the insert statement. Now let's do an update. Let's execute. Now let's check the history table again. Now you can see that we have a second record in the history table with the action update. Now let's do a delete. So I'm going to delete from the orders table where order ID equal 1. Now let's execute and you can see that we now have the delete record being logged in the history table. Here I have another trigger which is the instead of trigger. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to be disabling the after trigger which is on the orders table. To do that, expand programmability, expand the orders table, expand the triggers, right click on the trigger and then select disable. So now I'm going to create the instead of trigger. Now please keep in mind that you can have multiple triggers on a table, right? So let me execute this. Like before, here we are checking if the operation is an update or delete. So like before, so this section we are taking care of the insert operation. This section is taking care of the update operation. And this section is taking care of the delete operation. So basically instead of inserting, updating or deleting data from the orders table, that data will be logged to the orders audit log table. So first we need to create the order audit log table, right? So let's scroll down. Now let's create the order log table. Let's execute. Now let's try and insert a record in the orders table. So I'm going to use the first insert statement. I'm going to change ID to 2 and instead of John Doe, I'm going to say John Brown. Let's execute the statement. So here I got a error. Cannot insert the value null into the column log ID. So this is because I'm not passing a value to the log ID column. So to fix this, we can enable int identity on the column. So let's refresh. Right click on order audit log table, then select design, select the log ID column, scroll down to properties, and where it says identity specification, you want to click this arrow to drop down, and here where it says is identity, you want to change this to yes. The default value is 1 and the seed value is 1, so that's fine. It's gonna basically start from 1 and increment by 1. So I'm going to select save here. So let's close that. Now let's try and insert again. So one row was affected. Now let's check the order audit log table, select up 1000 and we see we have one record inserted. If we check the orders table, we should see we have one record as well. So we're not seeing 2 because we had deleted John Doe from the table initially. Now let's say for the total amount, the maximum amount a user can insert in the orders table is 100. So if the total amount surpasses 100, we want to fail the insert. Now what we can do is alter the trigger and use a if statement to check for that condition and then roll back the transaction that business rule is breached. So what I'll be doing is that I'll be altering this procedure by copying and pasting it. So this time I'm performing validation check. So if the total amount is greater than 100, I'll be rolling back the transaction. That means I'm going to stop it and not continue with insert because the business rule has been breached, right? So let's execute this procedure. It was altered successfully. Now let's try and do an insert again. First, we're going to test an insert with the amount less than 100. So I'm going to say 10. I'm going to change the ID to 3. Now let's execute. Now let's check the order table. So we are seeing John Brown with ID 3 in the table. Now let's change this value from 10 to say 104. And now let's run the insert and see what happens. Now we got an error. Total amount must be greater than 0, right? And it gives us a message. The transaction ended in the trigger. The batch has been aborted. So this is how you can utilize triggers to enforce business rules and ensure data integrity. So to summarize, a DML trigger is a T-SQL bash code similar to a stored procedure that is associated with a table and sometimes a view. You can use DML triggers for auditing, enforcing complex integrity rules, and more. Triggers execute when particular DML events such as insert, update, and delete occurs. SQL Server supports two kinds of triggers, DML triggers which are the after triggers and instead of triggers. Both types of DML triggers execute as part of transaction associated with insert, update, or delete statement. In the T-SQL code for both DML triggers, you can access tables that are named inserted and deleted. These tables contain the rows that were affected by the modification that caused the trigger to fire. In the next lecture, we'll be taking a look at cursors.